Hello and welcome to Matcha Mornings, part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network. I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith, and I'm excited to dive deep on topics around holistic health, the power of food, hormone health, how the practices of yoga can impact our health and well-being, and much more. So grab your cup of tea, settle in, and let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Matcha Mornings. I am very excited to have you here with me today. And today I am very excited to welcome Yvette Rose to the podcast. Yvette is a board-certified holistic gut health coach and the founder and CEO of Joule, a holistic women's health company. Yvette believes in creating the right conditions for a woman's body and mind to heal itself, and she teaches an integrated method involving nutrition, movement, and meditation. And in this episode of the show, we dive into all things gut health. So we talk about what gut health is and why it's important, the brain-gut connection, how you can begin to improve your gut health, and some foods and supplements that you can take to help optimize your gut health. So we're talking about all things having to do with your gut today. And this is a super important conversation, especially because so often many of us struggle with different types of hormonal imbalances, as well as different types of digestive troubles. And all of that starts with your gut health and your microbiome. So I hope that you get as much out of this episode as I did. And without further ado, here is Yvette. Welcome to the podcast today, Yvette. I'm really excited to have you here with me today.
I am excited to be here.
Where are you joining me from today?
I'm in Malibu. I just moved to Malibu during the pandemic, actually.
Oh, amazing. Sounds like a great place to be.
Yeah, it's not too bad to be stuck here. I'm originally from New York City, so used to having a lot smaller spaces in apartment buildings. It's nice to have a house and a backyard.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about, who you are, what you do, and all of that good stuff before we dive into talking about gut health and wellness.
All right. So my name is Yvette Rose, and I am a holistic health coach specializing in gut health. I have been doing this work for about close to 20 years now. When I started this journey, it was because I learned I was pregnant. And at that time I had been 12 weeks pregnant. So I didn't know I was pregnant. And so I was doing a lot of partying. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I decided that I needed to sort of clean up my body to get this baby stronger. Since he spent his first 12 weeks partying with his mama. So I started learning, different ways to sort of start taking care of my body. Prior to getting pregnant, I was eating McDonald's and Dr. Pepper and potato chips. That's what I lived on. And at night it was alcohol and cigarettes. So I started learning more about taking care of my body. And then I gave birth to this baby that had, I gave birth to him at a birthing center, and he ended up having to be rushed to the hospital. I ended up hemorrhaging. And so they asked to take us in two separate ambulances. But this was my first baby, determined to be with him every moment, wanting to breastfeed him. I just put a big pad on, took a shower, drank a gallon of orange juice, chased the ambulance to the hospital, and I stayed with my baby for a week in the hospital trying to breastfeed him. He had a lot of respiratory issues, jaundice. He was in an incubator, and he was poked with antibiotics. He had a spinal tap. I don't really know what it was. I say it was divine intervention. I say it was totally being guided. As I was sitting there trying to breastfeed this baby, he's screaming, crying, doesn't want anyone touching him. A week later, he comes home. I start to sort of figure out, what do I need to do to get this baby back in balance? Because from the moment he was born, he came in through so much trauma. So at the birthing center, they would do workshops, and right next to the birthing center, there was a yoga studio called Integral Yoga, where they would have doctors come in and do just talk on different topics. And this one topic was on detoxification. So I took my baby and I went to this workshop on detoxification, and I was learning this whole journey of what it takes for the body to do detoxification, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so as I'm doing this workshop, it started to sort of make sense to me that there was a lot going on inside of the gut, that there was a lot of bacteria inside of the gut that could be affected positively or negatively. And at that time, we're talking over 20 years ago, they still didn't understand the relationship between the gut and the brain, but this doctor was progressive in his thinking, understood that the body was struggling to do detoxification because of the diet that we had brought in, the modern day diet of processed foods. So I took my baby to his pediatrician appointment, and he was starting to show very disturbing signs of neurological things happening. He didn't let anyone touch him. He was afraid of loud noises. He wouldn't look you in the eye. Colors would startle him. Smell, like he had severe eczema, severe bloating, always crying, always having tantrums, never slept. So I kept going to the birthing center, just searching for some understanding of what to do with this baby. And at the birthing center, there was a doctor that was recommended, who was a holistic practitioner. He was a pediatrician and had switched over. At that time, we used to call it Eastern Western medicine. So it was at the Center for Integral Medicine, which closed in Manhattan. And so I went there, and this doctor started teaching me about using essential oils, teaching me about different herbs that I can put to help the eczema, different lavender, just different natural remedies to help my baby, to help ease the inflammation that he had and ease his anxiety. Like the crying was like, just talking to you right now, I can hear it. It was consistent. And as he got older, it became tantrums. So as I'm going through this journey of trying to heal my baby, I'm starting to learn that we needed to change the way we were eating and doing things in our household. So I never believed in removing things totally. Dairy was one of the things, like, okay, you can't do dairy, but I enjoyed my yogurt, or I enjoyed sour cream on my tacos. I love cheese. So instead, what I started doing is buying foods organic, or buying, having less of it, and just picking and choosing days that we would have it. And as we were changing our lifestyle in our house, I noticed I was starting to feel better mentally. And I noticed my baby was starting to get better. So as I'm working with this holistic pediatrician, we started to change the way we were all eating. At that time, my baby, he just could not breastfeed. It was the worst experience for both him and I. So I did give him formula. And so then for the first 2 years of his life, I would take him with me to do these different workshops and learn about nutrition. And of course, it was at a yoga studio, so I would do yoga with him. And I can tell the difference in how I was becoming more patient with my baby, how my baby was starting to look people in the eye, how my baby was starting to have less inflammation. And then as I started to try to get myself physically fit, I went to Equinox and I started working out with a friend, and the manager approached me and asked me if I would want to work there. He thought it would be a good fit. My body was really fit at the time, and I had a baby, so he thought it would be a good match. We lived in Tribeca, which there were a lot of moms there. So I started working at Equinox, and they asked me to go through a nutrition program. And I remember doing Dr. Jane Pent's Lifestyle Nutrition and listening to how different foods affected our bodies. And to me, it was like, okay, if this food is affecting our body, then it's got to be affecting our mind as well. And so again, diving in to see like, what does this gut brain connection mean? I kept studying taking different workshops, went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in 2008. And that's when it all started to make sense. That's when I started to learn about how the gut behaves like our endocrine system, and it has these neurotransmitters, serotonin, for instance, which is about 80 to 90% created inside of our gut. Well, if our gut has too much inflammation, it's blocking that communication of serotonin to our brain, which then can cause us to feel depressed and anxious. So I started to create lists of foods that I was learning, that I was using with my baby, that I was using on myself, that I was using with my clients. I would create these lists of foods, and these foods were scientifically proven to help fight inflammation. And when you relieve inflammation in the gut, because inflammation begins inside of the gut, then you can allow the neurotransmitter to have an easier pathway to the brain, which then eases the anxiety and depression. And that is the key reason why I went diving deeper into gut health. My baby, as he got older and he was going through therapy, was struggling with severe anxiety, and they diagnosed him with depression, which is a hard diagnosis to hear. He was only 11 years old at the time. So it was a really hard diagnosis to hear that my baby not only had severe anxiety, but he also had signs of depression. I gave him probiotics. I managed the amount of meat that he ate. I managed the amount of dairy that he ate. We did not do sugar in our house. I had gotten him a Kundalini yoga instructor to do meditation with him. And here he is. He's a 21-year-old man. He lives on his own. He's an entrepreneur. He can look people in the eye. He has created a really nice life for himself. And I say, like, if that's not a really good example of how you pay attention to your gut health, and that doesn't just mean the food that you put into your body, that also means the lifestyle that you're living, because your lifestyle impacts inflammation inside of the gut, that you will see some amazing elevated results. And that, I think is ultimately what we all want. It's ultimately, we all want to feel this joyous, healthy experience in our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really inspiring story. So thank you for sharing that. And it's amazing to hear that your son is doing well and, living on his own and has his own business and that type of thing. Because I think sometimes we kind of think like, okay, if this is the trajectory that somebody's on, that's just what their life's going to be forever. And it's so important for us to kind of look at the causal factors of things, because I feel like so often in our society, we have these like sort of Band-Aid solutions, especially when it comes to health and wellness. How many people are on prescription medication or have to take things every day to just get through their day? And while I believe that Western medicine serves a beautiful purpose in our society, and sometimes we do need to be on certain medications. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone or discredit their experiences or the help that can give. I think that we can also be looking at, the causes of these things. And it's really amazing that you were able to kind of dive deep with that. Like, look at, okay, my son is having these struggles. Is there a way that, his environment and the things he's putting in his body can help with that? And so I want to dive in a little bit around gut health. Can we just start with like what exactly gut health is? Because I think most of us kind of understand, okay, so I have this stomach that breaks down my food and sends nutrients to my body. I put things in, things come out. But what exactly is like gut health and why is it important?
Well, I'm going to start by saying that it was only 2 decades ago, maybe a little bit more, that we started identifying the hormonal system separate from white men. So when we had all of this science, this research done on our hormonal system, it was based on a man's body, a white man's body. And so as more women started coming into the practice, they started to look at the systems. And obviously, as women, we are created differently. And we have a much different hormonal system because our bodies are designed to make babies. And so if you think about as these past 2 decades, more and more women have been suffering with anxiety, with depression, with cancer, with heart disease. And it's because we didn't look at the hormonal system. Now that we understand that, now that we're identifying the women's hormonal system, we started to notice estrogen. Now, estrogen is something that is, I cannot talk enough about. I follow Dr. Kerry and Dr. Jolene Brighton. Like these doctors specialize in and can really dive deep into the estrogen detoxification process. But when I was mentioning detoxification, that the class that I took 20 years ago, he was not speaking about it as the estrogen detoxification process. He was talking about it just as estrogen, just detoxification phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. Later on, we started to learn that estrogen detoxification is absolutely essential to us, and that happens inside of the gut. So when you think about gut health, you're thinking about it. It is what supports the endocrine system. It is where inflammation begins. It is the connector between the gut and the brain. It is the space that helps our immune system be built. So if the body is not getting the amount of nutrition, the amount of breaking the enzymes that it needs to break down the nutrition in the gut, then it's causing a blockage between the gut and the brain. We're looking now at women and we're saying, okay, women have this estrogen. There's a large amount of women with estrogen, elevated estrogen. Oh my God, why am I blanking out on the term? So there's that estrogen detoxification that happens inside of the gut. And if that doesn't happen, then it's going to trigger us to be more anxious, to be more depressed. It's going to trigger us to be more bloated, to be more sensitive to foods. It's going to trigger us to have cancer. It's going to trigger cysts in our breasts. It's going to trigger bad menstrual cycles, poor reproductive systems. So looking at the gut, you have to help the gut to get what it needs so that it can help this estrogen detoxification to happen, and it can help the serotonin to connect to the brain, and it can help the immune system to build. So when you think of health and wellness, ultimately you should be thinking about your gut health.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what it is. Estrogen dominance is like.
I was thinking, I had thought of it after you said it, and then I was like, I don't want to interrupt her. But yeah, estrogen dominance. And yeah, all of that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really interesting just in my own journey with hormones and then my own journey learning around health and wellness. The gut comes up when you start diving down these rabbit holes on the internet or in programs. And it's something that I just feel like we either know we have good digestion or we know we don't have good digestion. And we often don't think about things other than that. But one of the things that you kind of talked about in your story with your son is this brain and gut connection. Because I think sometimes we just think like, okay, I drink Pepsi, I eat French fries, I eat potato chips, I eat whatever, I put it in my mouth, it goes in my stomach, I poop it out. But that's not really the case. Can you talk a little bit about the brain and gut connection and why that's important?
Absolutely. So when you put these ingredients inside of the body that are foreign, that it doesn't have any nutritional value whatsoever, your body doesn't know what to do with it. and you don't poop it out. It actually stores it, and it stores it as fat cells. It stores it as inflammation. And because of that, it stops the communication with the brain. And so instead, there are parts of our brain, like, for instance, when the reason why we're so addicted to sugar is because sugar releases dopamine, right? It makes you really happy. It's a reward. Dopamine is your reward hormone, right? So it releases that. It makes you feel really happy, but it released so much of it that you don't have any more stored. You take this deep dive crash. Next thing you know, you're feeling really depressed. So if you're not providing the body nutrition that it knows how to use, then it's going to change it into inflammation that's going to cause disease in the body. And disease in the brain, it's like I just did, I do corporate wellness, and I just sent some stats over to one of the corporations that I'm doing. And right now in the US, we have over 40 million adults in the US. Ages 18 and older are struggling with some form of mental illness. 40 million people in the US are struggling with mental illness. When we look at mental illness, people are thinking of the brain and the gut as two separate experiences, but they're not. So when you're thinking of the amount of anxiety, the amount of depression that's happening, look at diabetes, look at the heart disease, look at the cancer rates, look at all of that is caused from the environment that is affecting us. And so if you are not considering gut health, then you're not considering the body as a whole when you're looking at depression and anxiety. When I work, here's a great one. I have one of my best success stories, Amanda, lately is I'm working with this guy who he suffers from manic depression. He suffers from anxiety, and he's been working with a psychiatrist and a psychologist a year prior to me coming in. When I started working with him, I noticed that he was overweight. And so we started diving into what's happening in his weight. So he started, I looked at what he was eating, and I asked him, while he's working with his doctors, have they ever helped him to create a better lifestyle? Not really, they tell me to exercise, that'll make me feel better, but they never told him to look at his food. So we started diving into the foods that he was eating. Everything that he was eating, he was plant-based, so he was eating all the crappy, you name all the processed foods that plant-based diets have. That's what he was eating. On top of that, eating the French fries, eating the sugar, having the soda. He wasn't getting any results with the psychiatrist and the psychologist because of the amount of inflammation caused by the foods that he was putting in his body. I am absolutely convinced of that. And I can prove it because we've been working together for 5 months now. And if you see him today, he is now at Taekwondo. He wakes up to meditate. He's being mindful about the foods that he eats. He has his cheat day where he can eat whatever he wants. And he's not looking to try to figure out how he can survive or waking up another day thinking that today is going to be the last day he wants to take a breath. Those conversations don't even come up anymore. And that to me is and he's a young kid. He's only 24. So he, at that age, your body just has the ability to recover. Your body wants to heal. It can do it for you quickly. You just have to give it what it needs to do it for you. And so sometimes when you take these talk therapies and you don't use your lifestyle choices in combination, you're not going to get the results. And that's an example of gut health, because the amount of inflammation he had from what he was doing and what he's doing now is a big change. He looks like a different person. It's to me. And because of it, his psychiatrist decided to do a gut health workshop and learn more about gut health.
Yeah, that's really, really cool to hear. And I think that it's just a testament to like how important this part of our body is and how important it is to just think about the things that we're eating. And I mean, I am by no means like perfect, I guess you could say. I still enjoy eating. I mean, I live in Mexico, so I enjoy eating, chips and guac and chips and salsa and tacos and those types of things. But, I also like to balance that with probiotics and lots of greens and vegetables. I'm curious if we can talk a little bit about like when somebody's looking at their diet in terms of thinking about improving their gut health, what are some things that you recommend people look at or start to change?
Well, first, I want to go down the list. I'm going to name a few things that can be a trigger to knowing that you need to get to work on your gut. First is autoimmune conditions. Another one is mental health disorders. Another one is poor immune health, heart disease, diabetes, skin condition, weight gain or obesity, acid reflux, cancer, asthma, constipation, and or diarrhea. So if any of those sort of trigger the other interesting thing that I am learning is there are a lot of young women with PCOS. So if you have endometriosis, if you have any of those, then likely you need to consider your gut. And when I start to dive into my clients and how we program for gut health, first and foremost, I start with meditation. That is, before I go in and change everything that you're eating, I need you to dive into your mind and start to sweep away the clutter and debris that's in there that is causing you to not care about what you're putting into your body. So that's the first thing I do. Once I help my clients understand the meditation practice, then I help them to understand the different kind of probiotic options. Probiotics, you have acidophilus, bifidophilus, lactobacillus. You have all these different bacterias that do different things inside of our bodies. So you want to be able to sort of have the conversation with your clients about what bacteria, like let's say lactobacillus is a bacteria that your body usually makes a lot of. But if there's inflammation inside of the body, then the lactobacillus can't get into the gut to do its work. So you want to have additional lactobacillus coming into the body from your probiotic so that it can start to tear down that inflammation. And then the lactobacillus that your body's naturally producing can do its work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think, that's the first step. First, you get into meditation. Second, you go into your probiotics. And then the third thing I like to do is morning rituals. Morning rituals are really important. Taking the time when you wake up to go look in the mirror. Now, I have clients who don't like to look at their face because they have, self-hate that we're working through. So it is, if you can, if it's okay, if it doesn't give you too much anxiety to look in the mirror, ideally you take a look in the mirror and you look at underneath your eyes and you notice if you have bags under your eyes or is there a lot of black underneath your eyes. The other thing I tell my clients to look for are these little white heads that you get. The little white heads are an indicator that cortisol was overly activated while you were sleeping. So that means that your stress levels were high when you went to bed. Again, it goes into meditation. So you look in the mirror and you see, how are you feeling? You go to the bathroom. If you didn't have a bowel movement, then likely you need to get that movement happening. So I tell my clients, if that didn't happen, then we need to get that fiber and water intake in there to help that first morning bowel movement to happen. The other thing that I have my clients do is drink water with either apple cider vinegar or lemon. That acid helps to break down the inflammation inside of the gut so that the bacteria, the good bacteria, can start flowing inside of the gut. And then I highly recommend that you pull in that meditation practice in the morning. And so if you get that morning routine, looking in the mirror, getting your bowel movements, drinking the water with lemon, apple cider vinegar, doing your meditation practice, getting a little bit of movement in, even if it's just some stretching things to do, then you are helping the gut to start in a higher vibrational place.
Yeah, I love all of that. That's really awesome. Drinking warm lemon water and doing like a little morning movement practice with meditation is definitely a part of my day-to-day life. And that's been super, super helpful for me in terms of just my mind, my body, how it sets the tone for my day. Like, there's definitely times where I have an early flight, or maybe I'm going to an early fitness class, or just have to get up for something, or I sleep in for something and I skip the morning routine. And I definitely feel it when I don't do that stuff. Like, I just feel like my day is better when I make time for that. And then I feel better, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all the things.
That and yeah, you know what? I started doing this gratitude meditation with my younger son. I have a 13-year-old son who, by the way, okay, I just have to share this really, talk about insight. So my firstborn, I gained 46 pounds. I'm 100 pounds. I've always been a tiny little, I'm 5 feet tall. I'm a tiny little person. I gained 46 pounds. I was so bloated with this baby. He was born at 36 weeks. He was born 6 pounds, 14 ounces. Now, the second child came 8 years later. At that point, I was meditating. I was a yoga instructor. I was a personal trainer. I was plant-based. So I was eating right. I was doing all the right things. This baby was born 36 weeks. He was born 7 pounds, 14 ounces. I gained 12 pounds. And he breastfed, happy, no eczema, doesn't wear glasses. That's a whole other thing that they associate with like ADHD, ADD, autism. They'd likely wear glasses. He doesn't wear glasses. He doesn't have anxiety. So you want to talk about gut health, the importance of a mother taking care of her body. It really does impact the human that you put into this world.
This is something I've been thinking about for a long time. Like, it kind of seems like in our Western sort of modern day society, women who are getting pregnant or who are pregnant, there's not really a lot of consideration. Like, there's sort of, and maybe I shouldn't just stereotype that. I know a lot of people go through a lot of consideration, but in terms of things that we like should change or shouldn't change, like you get this little list of, here's a few foods that you shouldn't eat. Here's some vitamins that you should take. But then, people are still working full time. We're not talking about like managing stress levels. People work up to like the day they give birth, basically. So they're not taking away from their like maternity leave and stuff. And then in Canada, we have quite like a generous maternity leave, but in the US, I think it's like 4 or 6 weeks or something like that before women are supposed to be going back to work. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I know my girlfriend is pregnant right now, and it's really fascinating. I just had another insight, and this is what keeps coming up for me, and this feels so common sense to me, Amanda. Like, it feels so common sense. So we need cruciferous vegetables in order to help estrogen detoxification. We need those vegetables. What are those vegetables? Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. Now, when you're breastfeeding, you are told that you should keep away from these foods because they can cause bloating to the baby. Now, the reason why is because our body needs an enzyme to help break down the cruciferous vegetables, right? And so I don't know. I don't really know the science behind, and I'm sure like Dr. Jolene Brighton can definitely explain it, but there is the enzyme. Well, when we have our babies and we're breastfeeding, maybe our bodies don't have as much of that enzyme as it needs to help us break it down more. However, it is a vegetable that's needed for us to do estrogen detoxification, which is so essential to a woman's health, because if she doesn't do estrogen detoxification, she becomes estrogen dominant. If she becomes estrogen dominant, then we're looking at reproductive issues, cancer, we're looking at depression, we're looking at anxiety. So in society, to your comment, in society, we are not educating our moms on the importance of nutrition to help their bodies and their minds recover from pregnancy. As you're talking, I'm thinking, holy shit, now I remember when I was breastfeeding Cooper, they told me to keep away from broccoli and cauliflower because those foods would cause get him gassy. But yet I need that so that I can do estrogen detoxification. And this is what society doesn't do. It doesn't give you support. I sound really crazy when I'm telling my 49-year-old cousin who is like getting her period for 2 weeks a month and her boobs are size triple F. And no one is telling her she is estrogen dominant. They're telling her she's not even in perimenopause. And I'm like, what the, like, why aren't we getting more educated to help our women, to help our moms, to help us? Our bodies are making babies. It's an extremely complicated system. And yet we are not educating them on how to learn what their bodies actually need. And if one of the things that my cousin can't eat is she gets really gassy if she eats any of these foods that I listed. So I told her, take an enzyme. There are enzymes now to help you break down those nutrition, the cruciferous vegetables. Take an enzyme. Your body needs it. We need it for estrogen detoxification.
Hey everyone, we're just taking a quick break from the show to talk about Energy Bits. Energy Bits are spirulina tablets made of one ingredient, algae. Nothing added, nothing subtracted, just 100% plant-based algae nutrition. No sugar, no caffeine, no gluten, no soy, no additives, no GMOs, no preservatives, no binders, nothing artificial. Just 100% algae, 100% green, 100% healthy, and 100% pure. Pure and simple, the way food should be. They have high protein, high beta carotene, high iron, high chlorophyll, high antioxidants, and over 40 plus vitamins, including the B vitamins. They have electrolytes, including magnesium, potassium, and are a great source of essential fatty acids. Honestly, I could go on and on and on about how great Energy Bits are for you, and that's why I've decided to partner with them. If you want to learn more about Energy Bits or order some yourself, you can head on over to energybits.com to learn more. Use the code WANDERBARN to get 20% off your order. Once again, that's energybits.com and use the code WANDERBARN for 20% off your order. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I'm curious, what are some other good foods we should make sure that we're getting into our diet for optimal gut health? And I know we've talked about the cruciferous vegetables like the broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all those types of things. Are there any other foods that we should really make sure that we're adding into our diet? Because sometimes I think it's like diet changes have to happen slowly, right? So if you're eating tacos for all your meals, maybe you can start doing some veggies with them with one of the meals to start or something like that,
So because what we were talking about, I think I deviated from the question that you had about pregnancy. As far as the question that you had just now on foods that we should eat, yes, there are many foods that we should consider having in our households. One, for instance, that I think is super essential is spirulina or chlorophyll. It has full amino acids, so it's really good for those of us that are plant-based. And you want the amino acids, when you're looking at your diet, you want the building blocks, the nutrition that helps the brain to continue flourishing, that helps relieve the inflammation inside of the gut. And so I so Joule bars, the company that I created, it's patent pending, the recipe that the ingredients that are used inside of these bars, because like I said, 20 years ago when I did that detox class, I took a list of ingredients that every class I was taking were always mentioned: turmeric, pepper, cayenne, fennel seeds, chia seed, hemp seed, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. These were ingredients, MCT oil, coconut oil, that just kept coming up. And so it it occurred to me that these ingredients have like decades of research done on how beneficial they are to our bodies. So, for instance, pumpkin seeds are an excellent source of magnesium, which helps with memory. It has iron, which helps with brain fog, and it has zinc that helps with brain health, and copper for nerve control. So when you're looking at certain ingredients, they look like they're tiny and what impact could they really have in the body, but they can have an insane impact in the way the gut functions and the way it helps relieve inflammation, and it helps to make that connection between the gut and the brain. So I would say if you were to think about some foods you want to consider having, definitely the spirulina chlorophyll, definitely chia seed, hemp seed, flax seed, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. I take those and I just make a mixture of that and I put it inside of a smoothie, or I make overnight oats with it. I would definitely say blueberries. Blueberries is really strong in antioxidant. And just as a caveat, I am very much about energy. So for me, it's about science, but it's also about energetics. And blueberries taps into your third eye, and because you want to get into those blues and those the indigo colors. And so I love to have blueberries. I use blueberries for meditative reasons, and I also use blueberries to just heal. Green tea. Matcha tea is really great. That's one of my biohacking go-to in the middle of the day when I'm feeling like my brain is starting to get a little foggy. Bananas, turmeric, dark chocolate, apple. Those are some ingredients that I like to have that are pretty much ingredients you can get at a grocery store.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think that it's just a reminder that it can be like, super simple. Like you listed, a whole list of seeds there. And there's lots of things you can do with seeds, from creating like protein balls or adding them to overnight oats, like you said, or putting them in smoothies. I think smoothies are like one of the best ways to like hide all of the goodness if you're not super used to eating things that are super green or maybe super healthy. Like you can throw so much stuff in a smoothie. And if you've got like a banana and some blueberries and maybe like some almond milk in there, maybe some honey, like you're not going to taste all the greens,
Yeah. And you know what? Smoothies and overnight oats are like two really great ways to cheat, to like get these. I like, when you talk about the morning ritual, I like to get all of that in my earlier part of the day, because my brain needs, I'm 49. My brain needs some help to stay active, to stay functioning. And so if you add like these kinds of seeds inside of your smoothies or your overnight oats, and you have them in the morning, you're helping the activation of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. You're helping yourself, to just step into your day more awake, more aware. So it doesn't need to be complicated. I mean, I can come up with all of these ashwagandhas and holy basil, and, there's a lot of different herbs, and there's a lot of different ways to cheat minerals into the body that are, foods that can't necessarily get at a grocery store. I like to make it simple, because I think that my hope is to reach the majority. And if we're talking about majority, then think about what they would be able to get at their grocery store. I mean, now we all have Amazon, so you can order from Amazon. But I just like to keep it simple. I think that, and I think the other thing is that culturally, we can only, there's some foods that our bodies just can't handle because, you're Russian or I'm Puerto Rican, or, your body may not have the enzymes to break down certain foods that are being recommended. Blood types affect the way you break down animal foods. So for me, I think keep it nice and easy, having the almonds, the seeds, just things that your body can break down. And if you're having trouble breaking it down, if you're like people will tell me they get bloated if they eat too much fiber, then your body likely needs an enzyme, because what happens if your body is filled with inflammation, you're going to get bloated when you eat too much fiber, because there's a blockage in the communication inside of the intestines. So give it 2 weeks, like keep eating the fiber, and eventually you'll go from discomfort to comfort, because you're going to get the poop out. And when you get the poop out, you won't feel as bloated. So adding in an enzyme to help, you feel a little bit more comfortable during that time that you're retraining your gut to utilize fiber, it's essential. You have to put fiber inside of the body. So that's, the seeds are great because they give you a good amount of fiber in like you said, in a nice smoothie or an overnight oats.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And yeah, I know I take a probiotic every single day, and it's something I've been doing for the last probably like 6 or 8 months. I've gone on and off with probiotics over the years, but just as my husband and I were back in Canada for like 7 months over the pandemic, and then decided to come to Mexico, and I was like, well, I haven't been in this environment with like the different water and the different food and stuff and just the different bacterias, like I should really take a probiotic to not get sick. And it's been so helpful for that purpose, but then also just for like my day-to-day digestion. Like I've really noticed a big difference, which has been really great.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's, you have to, it's like meditation, right? Meditation is really hard when you start, right? You don't have the time for it. It's too hard to sit down still for a few minutes. You're getting lost in your thoughts. But then eventually you go in and you do it. And that's why they say it takes 21 days to create a habit. You keep at it and you keep at it. Now you're going to start realizing how beneficial, how much more work you're getting done in your day, how much more patience you have, how you're taking out all the clutter of the negative thinking, and you're starting to think more optimistic. Then it's the same thing with the probiotics and the enzymes, right? You don't feel it in the beginning, right? You're putting it in your body, you're like, I'm taking this, but I don't really notice a difference. Next thing you know, when you're pooping 14 days later, your poop is sinking. It's not floating, or you're noticing it's coming out more frequently, or you're noticing it's more solid and it doesn't, it feels more natural. You notice that the food that you ate is broken down. A lot of times, you can look at your poop. A lot of people don't look at their poop, and you should look at your poop because it will tell you a lot. You can look at your poop and you'll see food that still isn't broken down. Your body didn't even use it. It just got rid of it. And so the probiotic helps all of that to happen. So, and I think one more thing that I learned here in Malibu that I didn't have an opportunity to do when I lived in New York City is earthing, is, walking barefoot on the ground, on the dirt, on grass, and allowing the earth to sort of put in the bacteria that it's creating into your body. I think, there has been research done on how beneficial that is to gut health.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that before too, that, getting your feet into the ground or into the earth, or also something like gardening can be really good for like your hand microbiome. And I think about that a lot. Just with all the hand sanitizer that we've been using over the last year. Like, I think that sometimes people don't realize that yes, our hands are a place with bacteria, but having bacteria on our hands is also how we build up our immune system. So that's another important part of that. But yeah, I love everything that you're saying. It's so much good stuff. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And when you talk about the hand sanitizer, 100%, I agree with you. So while I was learning about the gut microbiota and how, Obama, when he was in office, he had spent millions of dollars to research our soil, and they found that our soil didn't have the bacteria, the microbiota that it needed, that it used to have to keep us healthy. Then we have to go out and we have to seek it. We have to be constantly exposed to it so that we can keep building. The body just, it builds immunity, but it has to be exposed to things in order for it to build immunity. And so with my first baby, I did everything sanitized. You couldn't even touch them if you weren't sanitized. You had to wash your hands a million times. And then I started learning about the gut microbiota. My second baby, I could care less. It's like expose him because I need him to be strong. I need him to build the immune system so that he could fight off disease. Well, my second baby never gets sick, knock on wood. And my first baby was always at the doctor's office. And so now when I see people, all this antibacterial, I'm like, we're going backwards. Like, we just got all these scientific studies that said how important it is for us to be exposed. And now we're putting this lotion on our hands to kill the bacteria. It doesn't, it's all counterintuitive. Everything that's happening, I won't even go there. It just feels, it goes against every research that I had been studying. I studied with doctors like Dr. McCullough, Dr. Amen. It's just, it's not right. But, your gut, it takes about 2 weeks for your gut to start healing. So it doesn't take long. You just have to be patient. You want to be mindful. You want to pay attention to your urine. You want to pay attention to your stool. You want to look at your face. You want to look at your skin. You want to notice if you're aging. You want to notice if your hair is falling out. You want to notice all of these things. Like, pay attention. If your boobs are hurting, if you're touching your boobs and they're hurting a lot, especially right before your period, that's all not supposed to happen. That's all your body telling you that there's inflammation that's going on and we need you to pay attention.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that I completely agree with everything that you're saying. And I definitely think that our body gives us signs, and it's, important for us to kind of tune in and listen to that. And I think that that's, for me, a really big part of where the meditation piece comes from, and not like disregarding these like signs or symptoms that we're getting, because so much of what our society tells us is like, it's okay to feel tired, having PMS is normal. Having anxiety is normal, and it's not really normal. There's things that we could be looking at with all of this. So I think that that's super important. And I've loved this whole conversation. I want to just chat quickly, Yvette, about Joule Goddess and these bars that you've created. Can you tell myself and listeners a little bit about your business, what you guys do, and where people can go to find that?
It's really interesting. Before I tell you about that, one more note. In when I was 42 years old, I was struggling with such severe anxiety that they became panic attacks. They paralyzed me, and I had to close my company. I used to own a company called Joule Body Cleanse, which was the first e-commerce prep healthy food delivery company, and we delivered nationally. And I had to close the company overnight because of the amount of panic attack and anxiety that I was having. So I started working with my doctor. I went and I was seeing the psychiatrist. I had my internist. And then finally, they told me to do a brain scan. So I had a SPECT scan done on my brain. And it turned out that in my brain, it showed between the evaluation and what was going on in my brain that I had ADHD, ADD, anxiety, and depression. So when you look at all of that, at that time I was living a very healthy lifestyle, but I had experienced some really traumatic situations. And when I experienced those traumatic situations, it just triggered so much inflammation inside of my body that I now was struggling with all this anxiety. And when I got that diagnosis, I went back and started relearning about gut health. And so one thing I must say about gut health is that meditation is what took me from all of those diagnoses, the neurodiverse brain that I had, to be able to function in society without feeling the pain and discomfort that anxiety and panic attacks and depression would bring. So I highly, if there's anything that you get out of the time that we spent together, is meditate. And when you meditate, you'll start getting the answers on what it is your body and mind needs to heal. And when I created these bars, I started formulation of these bars 11 years ago. And I'm working with a marketing company because I've been struggling with sort of communicating why I created these bars, because I created these bars with such a strong mission so long ago that I sort of lost sight on why I started this journey. And yet there's nothing on the market like it. So these bars are made with ingredients that I mentioned that I had studied for many years. First, I took the ingredients that I wanted to put in one convenient food. And I want, Amanda, really important, this was women in mind. When I made these bars, like anyone can eat them. You know, a lot of men will ask me, well, can I eat them? Yeah, of course, it's food. But for me, it was my passion to support women. I just felt like we weren't taking care of our women. We weren't helping them be more nurtured. They were taking care of their families. They were feeding their families. They were eating the scrappy foods that their kids left over. They were drinking caffeinated drinks. They were eating sugary foods. You know, they just weren't doing what they needed to do to take care of the body and mind. And so I saw the bars that were on the market because I was trying to get my clients to eat foods that were more convenient. You know, even though I used to make foods for them, they still needed something that they can eat when they were at work, you know, hustling, or if they were at their kids' games or whatever they were doing, they needed something that they can have in their bags and eat. Ultimately, for me, I wanted to make sure that when they ate something, that it was going to connect to their mind in a healthy way. So it was not going to make them anxious. It wasn't going to give them a jolt of energy. It was going to help them have a stabilized amount of energy, a good amount of focus, no bloating, and ingredients that would do the work inside of their gut to help relieve inflammation. So all of that was in my head when I started formulation. That's why it took me 11 years, because if you look at the ingredients inside of these bars, you've got turmeric and fennel seeds and cayenne and you know, chia seed, hemp seed. You're like, okay, and you can't add sugar because sugar is one of the highest inflammatory ingredients, right? So I had these ingredients and I formulated bars after bars, and I would bring them to market and test them. And, you know, at that time, because it was 11 years ago, I was like, oh, I can add organic sugar or maple syrup to it and it'll be great. But it was 29 grams of sugar by the time we finished. So even though they tasted great, it still defeated the purpose of giving women something they can eat that was satiating, and it alleviate any bloating and also help their minds that be at a better place. So it took 11 years, a lot of different bakers. I had scientists, I had labs, and we put together these bars in two different flavors. One is ginger goji. So the ginger was designed, ginger, as you may know, I'm sure you do, ginger has a huge list of benefits to the gut. And also it helps with headaches, it helps with bloating, it helps with digestion. So I wanted to make a ginger bar. And then I had the cacao maca bar. Now, the cacao maca bar has an ingredient called cascara inside of it. That ingredient is the cherry fruit of coffee, which is really high in fiber and really high in iron. And so for me, it was essential to put that superfood inside of the bar as well. So one is cacao maca, which helps to balance hormones, helps with energy levels. And then we have the ginger goji, which helps with focus and helps with digestion.
Amazing. Yeah, they sound really awesome. And I was looking at your website earlier and I just really truly love like how clean the ingredients are, because I'm a bit of a bar connoisseur. I've tried like all the bars, and while some are better than others, it is really hard to find something that doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. So this is pretty cool. If people want to check them out, Yvette, where can they go to find that?
They can go on joelgoddess.com or Amazon. We're on Amazon as well. If you purchase it from my site, I can give you a coupon code self-care 25 for 25% off. And then, that's how you get them.
Amazing. Is there anywhere else that you hang out online where people can go to follow?
Oh, no, you know, this is where my age shows itself. I'm at a point in my life where I don't, I didn't know. I don't really have a strong desire to be in social media or be seen or, um, so really it's just, I do blogs, on JouleGoddess.com. I have, some blogs there. I do post meditations on Instagram at Joule Goddess. And, there you'll find, a lot of different meditation practices. And on Joule Bars, I usually just share like, some nutritional facts or benefits of all the different ingredients that are inside of the bar.
Amazing. I love it. I think that that's great. So I'll make sure there's links to all of that in the show notes, and just wanted to give you a huge thank you for your time today and for all of this amazing information.
Oh, thank you for having me.